I want to welcome everyone to the 15th Virtual Agritourism Gathering. For those of you who haven't joined us before, my name is Lisa Chase, and I'm a professor at University of Vermont Extension, and I'm the director of the Vermont Tourism Research Center. We developed this virtual series a little over a year and a half ago as a way to stay connected through the evolving pandemic. We are planning ahead through May with one virtual gathering each month, leading up to the International Workshop on Agritourism, which will take place in Vermont in person and also online August 30th to September 1st of 2022, this summer. I'm excited to announce that registration is now open for the conference, and I hope to see many of you in Vermont. Between these virtual gatherings and email and social media, and also the first World Congress on Agritourism that took place in Bolzano, Italy in 2018, which was really what led to the development of this International Agritourism Network, I feel like I already know so many of you, and I can't wait to gather together and share food and drink with you, which is exactly what we are talking about today: culinary innovation on the farm. But before we launch into our topic and I introduce our moderator, I want to take a moment to see who is in this virtual space. I am going to launch a poll that asks you to describe yourself. Check all that apply. I know many of you do many different things, so feel free to check a variety of boxes. And after you filled out the poll, please take a moment to introduce yourself in chat if you're comfortable doing so. And when you type into chat, I think the default is just to send to the hosts and panelists. If you'd like to share who you are with everyone here in this virtual space, be sure to select everyone. I have the privilege of looking at the registration list, so I know we had about 250 people registered from around 30 different countries and all different types of vocations and skills and interests. I'm really looking forward to a time when we can be in a physical space together and look around the room and see who's here with us. But for now, we'll settle with this poll and introducing ourselves in chat. I'm going to end the poll now, and I'm going to share the results. And you can see that we've got about 37% are business owners and managers. About 35% are tourism professionals, around 30% are producers, farmers and ranchers. We've got quite a few extension service providers, nonprofits, educators and researchers as well. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Now that we know a little bit more about who's here in the virtual space as attendees, I want to introduce our moderator. Catherine Melanzi is a consultant who advises hospitality, travel, and tourism ventures on strategy, sustainability, and business development. With a background in gastronomy and regenerative agriculture, and inspired by many years spent in Italy, Catherine's area of expertise is agritourism and culinary tourism. She designs and facilitates cultural and leadership experiences about food and nature. She's based in the Hudson Valley of upstate New York and has been instrumental in coordinating and curating this series of agritourism gatherings that began in September of 2020. Catherine, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Thank you, Lisa, and welcome everyone. Amazing. September 2020 was about 20 years ago, so it's a delight to be still going, and it's so encouraging to see the great turnout that we've had for these gatherings over the past couple of years. which, as Lisa said, we created to connect people who love food, travel, and farming, and how they go together. And I have the honor today to host this wonderful group of subject matter experts who will no doubt delight us with their knowledge and inspire us with their perspectives about one of my favorite topics and one that connects us all, which is food. And we will spend our hour together today talking about the role of culinary innovation on farms, and in turn, the impact of farms on culinary innovation. And tourism and gastronomy go hand in hand. So it felt natural to include in our series an exploration of some of the ways in which tourism affects culinary practices and vice versa. And from the seeds to the soil, to the ocean, to olive oil, to dessert, our three panelists today spend their professional lives looking at these relationships between innovation and tradition, between innovation and creativity, and looking at the power of gastronomy and influential chefs to shift the perception of place and community. And what's exciting for me is that all of our panelists today are united by a shared concern about what the future of responsible, feasible gastronomy in their places looks like. How can we create, nurture, sustain livelihoods and projects that serve the work of reuniting people, the land, and generating respect? How do we honor authenticity, even while we appreciate that the definition of authenticity changes over time? And as we rebuild the tourism industry in the evolving pandemic, how can we also rebuild ecosystems as well? So enjoy and let our accomplished and interesting guests today inspire you. And with that, I would like to introduce our first panelist, Nikki Rose, who will take us on a journey to Crete, Greece, where I understand they are experiencing all sorts of weather-related issues this evening. Nikki, thank you for being with us. Nikki is a Greek-American journalist, documentary filmmaker, seminar director, and professional chef in Crete. In 1997, she founded Crete's Culinary Sanctuaries educational network to support residents working on action programs to protect and share their heritage. CCS teachers are archaeologists, ecologists, organic farmers, heirloom seed savers, chefs, artists, and many others. CCS organizes accredited educational programs on Crete's culture, nature, organic agriculture, and cuisine. Over 3,000 students, teachers, and journalists have attended her programs. The upcoming documentary, Heritage Protectors, is a continuation of their work. CCS is an award-winning program for best practices in responsible, sustainable travel, and has been featured in the National Geographic publications, Destination Stewardship Center, the New York Times, World Travel and Trade, WTTC, and numerous others, including the Routledge Handbook of Sustainable Food and Gastronomy. Nikki is a consultant on similar initiatives around the world, and more information can be found at the link in the chat, www.cookingincrete.com. Nikki, I turn it to you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Catherine. It's great to be here with all of you. And thanks for the great introduction. Now you saved me a lot of time. I can talk just about food now. So I'm going to share my screen now and tell you some stories from Crete. Everybody ready? Okay. I have a school without walls here in Crete called Crete's Culinary Sanctuaries. And since Catherine did all the hard work for me, I don't have to tell you much more. Yes, our teachers we have about 50 teachers now, And our school keeps growing as we look for more young organic farmers, especially to carry on the trades that they would like to and they prefer to do. So a lot of what we do is academic study abroad programs, but we also do programs for pro chefs, hotshot chefs. I won't mention their names. I don't think they want me to. VIP tours for people who just are interested in our culture and our cuisine. No two program is alike. So what do our students really come here to learn, and what do we want to teach them in the short amount of time they're here? This is a group of nutrition students from Missouri, and this is a subsistence farmer we're visiting. They're not easy to, we can't crash everybody's house and ask them to feed us, but occasionally we get the opportunity to have fun on people's farms. So Crete, as some people might know, is the southernmost island in all of Greece, all of Europe, I'm sorry. And smack dab in the middle here, we've got a long 4,000 year history of agricultural production on this island, and also trade to neighboring civilizations of the time. So all the discoveries at the Minoan sites are all about food, vessels for wine production, vessels for storage of wheat, olive oil, wine. And most people know about the Mediterranean diet, which is why a lot of people come here, of course, and our beautiful beaches. We also have junk food. We're not exempt from junk food either. And generic tourism. So you're not going to find the Mediterranean diet here. So where do we have to go? First, to rekindle resident and visitor interest in our culture, nature, and real food, so that we don't see this or this all the time, right? And work with communities on programs that work for them. We can't just parachute into a village and say, hey, we want to do this, this, or this. We ask them first. So what's cooking in these mountains away from these mass tourism resorts? It took me a long time to find the right teachers. I've written about this for many, many years, 25 or more. And it landed in the Culinary Institute of America, my alma mater, which, what's the Mediterranean diet and who was on it anyway? Which I actually wrote it in response to some of the articles I'd read, and said, there's more to the story than olive oil. So I've written a book about these issues, lots and lots of papers. So here's our students again, enjoying a lovely meal. Before they get to that point, we take them to places like this. This is an Azoria, archaic period archaeological dig in progress. The students get to meet the archaeologist for a private tour. This is not open to tourism. We collaborate with the archaeologist directly on private classes through the site. He's standing right now in the pantry. So this is all about food. And the pots seem to be growing out of the land. It's fascinating. There's another archaeologist we work with. Here's Geraldine, and she teaches Minoan cooking. She's also a potter. So she's replicating the Minoan pots that they've discovered, and then also recreating the recipes of what they found in the pots, lentils, fish. So the students get to learn about our agricultural production through the ages. This is an olive tree that's really quite young. It's only 2,000 years old. These are, this is a Minoan press, olive press. And so they learn about the olive oil production through the ages, and then we're pretty much down to this right-hand corner at this point in time. They learn about our fisheries and get to eat our fish, of course, and also the challenges of small-scale fishers now, which are many. Also learn about our biodiversity and our famous thyme honey. This is a wild thyme plant. This is a great site. This beekeeper has the privilege of setting up his hives here. And they travel further into the mountains with a botanist to learn more about our teas and tinctures and other wild herbs that we use in cuisine and traditional medicine. There's more on that: wild asparagus, wild oregano, poppies, etc. They get some exercise so they don't gain weight on the Mediterranean diet. That would be sad. Just kidding. But so the students stay in villages if at all possible, because if they stay in the resort hotels or mass tourism, they're not going to be able to experience these impromptu food trucks coming down from the mountains. There's a shepherd who lives way in the mountains selling his cheese in the village that we're staying in. So here's our students in the background, just, snapping away photo ops. Our students also learn about heirloom seeds, which is very important to me, especially, and the farmers I work with. Here's Vandana Shiva. We're in Athens at a march. I'm in the back. I don't know who took the photo. And this is Panayotis. We also work with him. He's another seed saver in northern Greece, and all of the musicians and people who support his work. We're not the only ones talking about this. There's lots of papers. If anyone wants to check these out, I have links I can send to you too. But here's the major players that we collaborate with in one way or another and share their papers. Farmers Footprint is based in the States, doing great work along with a Dr. Zach Bush. Just so anyone knows, since all of our work primarily we try to have support the young organic farmers, and just so you know, just check out the market, the organic market there, 97 billion euros. Okay, so people are buying organic food. Where are they going on vacation? Maybe to us, maybe to you. So here's the headquarters in Crete of the seed savers that we work with. One of many. We go to many farms, but this is one that's really fun. The farmer here, Manolis, is a chef, seed saver, so it's a great experience. And of course, we get to enjoy the results and cook. Everybody should learn how to cook, no matter what profession they're in my opinion, and get to learn about New World crops that are here in Crete, and check out these tomatoes that are harder to find in the States than they are here. Cooking, more cooking. Students also get to learn about our wine. We have a 4,000-year history, lots of indigenous varietals, and good wine, very good wine. And meet the young winemakers, always a pleasure, important too for us. They learn about our music through world-renowned musicians. Our raki, which is a variation of grappa here, and impromptu dance class at the same time. Basically, our work is to support the providers of our good, safe food. Work on action programs, work with the communities, find out what they need, what they want to do, what they feel like teaching. All this is important to them and to us to collaborate in ways that everybody's happy. So we're working on a documentary we've been working on for many years, and hopefully we're going to be finished in September. A few delays, as you probably guessed, but it's been a crazy ride on working on the documentary, lots of work, but really, really important to share these stories because they're local issues, but for the global community, everybody needs to know, what's happening in Crete, because it's the same message everywhere else. So there's more information on our website. There's also clips if you want to see just short, 3-minute trailers, which will give you a better idea and a sense of what we're doing in Crete. So that's it. That's what we're up to. Thanks for your time. I'll wait for questions later.
Thank you, Nikki. Wonderful to see photos and thank you for a taste of your work. I'm sure there'll be many questions, and just as a reminder, you're welcome to pop in your question to the Q&A, and we will get to as many as we can. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Chef Joseph Archbald, our next speaker, who took his first steps in cuisine in his mother's Caribbean restaurant, Donna Mara, in the Caranero Island in Bocas del Toro. And Joseph started studying culinary arts at the Interamericana de Panama University. After completing his studies, Chef worked and did apprenticeships in Costa Rica and in the United States. And with these experiences in hand, Joseph set his sights on Paris, where he worked in some of the best restaurants in the city, while learning a lot about the importance of the relationships with producers, fishermen, and farms that provided the ingredients for the restaurants. In 2014, Joseph returned to Panama to open his own restaurant, Receta Misila, in the Bocas del Toro archipelago. And one of the chef's latest ventures has been the launch of a grilled food restaurant based on Caribbean street food, the Octo Caribbean Grill on Colon Island. And with that, I turn it to you, Joseph, to tell us more about your work. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here with you, sharing a little bit of what we do here in the Caribbean side of Panama. That you're all welcome to come. And so, thank you, everyone. I'm gonna talk to you a little bit of the work we've been doing here in the last year since I came back. This is an archipel of almost like 300 islands that we can say that we have 4 that are like the main, where they're the closest ones, and where everything is actually starting to move in as a tourism. I think we can say we started like 15 years ago, very slowly, and it's in the last 5 that Bocas del Toro is becoming a destination. Like everybody used to know or to go to Costa Rica. And I think it kind of started also from there because we are border, you know, in Panama, Bocas del Toro, this the province where we are, it's the border with Costa Rica. So people started to come here and realize that this was an amazing place, and they started to come. You know, everything started very like we were not ready for, you know, for tourists. So everything is being happening little by little, until I can say that now, after the pandemic, that we were already we have restaurants, we have hotels. It became the most visited place in Panama. People are actually coming to Panama to come to Bocas del Toro. And so I started, when I came back a few years ago, I started to have where my mother used to have a restaurant here since 10, 15 years ago. And now I came back, I took it. It's with a small hotel at the beach. That was the picture that you saw before. It's a really, really nice place with our own private beach with 6 rooms. And my mother had that place. She started it, and she was doing traditional Caribbean food. I was always, when I was away, I was always thinking about how can we take that and give it to the people in a way that they can, without speaking, they can understand more about our culture and about the uniqueness of the place. Because as a food traveler, because I travel for food, this is what I wanted to recreate here in Panama. And now that I started Receta Michila, the restaurant, which was my mother's place, and now we have Octo, you know, it's becoming like more and more important for us, the relationship between the farmers and the restaurants. And as I said, I wanted to talk to the people through food. I wanted to make them feel how do we eat here, the ingredients, the products. And we have a mix here in Panama, here in Bocas del Toro, of indigenous and Afro-Antillean cuisine. And then they, how can I say, they are actually together now. So this makes a very distinctive thing that you will find different other things in other places of the Caribbean, but it makes this place really unique. Of also, the natives from here, they also speak the English of the Afro-Antillean. So it's like a mixed culture here, and my family have both. My mother was already a descendant of indigenous from the Teribe tribe here, and then we also have people coming from my grandfather from Jamaica. So I was also always wondering, how can we enhance this? So now we're doing what we call cultural flavors. And in the two restaurants, we try to provide the people who visit the place doing more connections, which is we're just at the beginning of it, because it's being like, yeah, as I said, it's an archipelago with a lot of islands. There are people and farmers growing things, and there are also people from other countries that are coming here to start farming as well. And so it's been a work to get them together, because what we are doing more now is, and as I think it's kind of like I think this is kind of the future of restaurants and gastronomy, to actually work with the restaurants, but actually from the farms, that actually only work with what they are growing, what is in season, which is not new actually in the world, but here it's actually it is. People are it's very challenging, in order also for people to understand that we are trying only to cook with what we have, because sometimes, now at the beginning we didn't have menu. People were always confused, like, okay, so if you don't have a menu, I cannot stay. I don't know what I'm gonna eat. So we've been evolving. I think we're gonna get there, because it's all about promoting agriculture and actually agritourism, because people can come to our restaurants and they can taste delicious food that speaks about their culture, but also knowing about ingredients that they never saw before, that they never heard about them before. And so that makes really, and we realize that it makes the experience like very memorable. Like we have people writing from all over the world 1 year after, talking about the meal that they had here, because they actually they couldn't, as you see. Can you put the picture before, please? Like, for example, in this dish, we have a pumpkin that people are growing also here, but also you have a coconut heart of palm. A lot of people know the coconut. It's one of the things that we have here the most. So we're trying to use everything. It's one of our most. We have like 300 coconut trees behind Receta Michila. So we do fresh coconut every day, coconut milk. We use their coconut dishes. And here you can also, when we need to cut them to put more, because this is what we're doing like monthly, you can actually cut the center of the palm, and then you get this heart of palm, which is very tasty. It tastes like coconut, but have a different texture. So it's actually also very educational for people to know about how can we actually harvest our own ingredients, because we're actually also growing our ingredients in our restaurants and showing the cooks how to grow the food in a way that we can have it in a more permanent way and sustainable way to provide the restaurants. And this is what I think we're just at the beginning to start here in Bocas. We started also a culinary program. We started last year with 15 students. We have many restaurants yet. I think we can have like 50 restaurants already in the main island, but we don't have culinary professionals. So I think this is one of the works that we're doing here, starting the connection between farmers, between the food that we're doing here in the restaurants, and trying to push them, to grow more, because for, as I said, I was watching what they had in Greece. Greece has like it's historical, a culinary culture, and I realized that here it wasn't a place where people come for food. So I think we're just at the beginning of that, and people are getting are acknowledging, I think is the word, that very fast. Also, the food that we're doing is, we're trying to make it very attractive. I like to say sexy, in a certain way, because and to seduce, to seduce the people. And one of the things that happens that we realize lately, I've always been talking to the people, to our workers, that we serve happiness through food and culture. This is and I found that was the best way for them to understand what we're doing, because nobody can come here and live. They need to we need to make them happy. If they're not happy, they don't pay the bill. In a certain way, I think we don't promote it that much because it can be misunderstood, but that's what we do. So as I said, we're really in a new place trying to promote as much and make the connections. And I don't know where this is gonna get, but I think we can already see, I've been participated in programs like Top Chef in Panama, and I'm always like trying to promote. Panama is becoming like already a gastronomic destination. We have many chefs also in Panama City that we are all working together, promoting our culture, and trying to find ways, that we as humans can evolve, because food for us, like we believe, is the most important thing. Like everybody does, we sometimes we need to. We are what we eat. This is really. I don't know if you heard about Ayurveda. It also talks about the food is medicine, and we really believe that. So we're trying to make food that is delicious, that speaks about our culture, and to promote agriculture in this place. I think it's something. It's a tool that it will bring abundance to this side of the world, as in other places already did in Greece, Italy, Peru, Mexico. So we're just following the steps and trying to adapt it to Panama. That I think, in a few years you will be hearing a lot more of that, because we really think that we have like a gold here, and we see it because we are visited by the 5 continents. People come every night to our restaurants, to this place, and we can see through their eyes how they can appreciate. We still have many things to improve, but little by little we are I think we're doing the job. Yeah, I think that's it. That's everything I can say. If you have any questions also, I will be very happy to provide them.
Thank you so much. I love that, the abundance mentality. It's beautiful, and definitely those photographs, many of those dishes seem very seductive. So I think it's working. Thank you so much. And our next presenter, Kate Barney, serves as the Vice President for Row 7 Seed Company, a seed company founded by Chef Dan Barber of Blue Hill and Blue Hill at Stone Barns, and public plant breeder Michael Mazurek. Row 7 is a seed company grounded in the notion that deliciousness might just change the world by bringing chefs and breeders together to make ingredients taste better before they ever hit a plate. Kate previously worked as service director and sommelier at Blue Hill at Stone Barns. She was vice president and co-founder of Macienda, a company importing landrace maize from Mexico to the US. And she was operations director of Fair Resources, a food consulting business with clients from Airbnb to Etsy. She holds an undergraduate degree from Kenyon College in American Studies and Studio Art, and a graduate degree from the University of Gastronomic Sciences in Food Culture and Communications, both cum laude with honors. A classmate of mine, thank you. In 2012, she was named one of the 16 young food professionals to watch by Eater, and in 2016, she was named one of the 40 rising stars changing food policy under 40 by the New York City Food Policy Center. Kate has received awards and grants from various organizations, including Fulbright US, Madame Escoffier, the James Beard Foundation, and the American Institute of Wine and Food. Kate, thank you so much for being here. Turn it to you.
Thank you, Catherine. That was thoroughly embarrassing to have my whole resume read online. It's so wonderful to say hello to you all, and thank you to Catherine and Lisa for inviting me to present. And oh gosh, Nikki and Joseph, what a feast for the eyes in this time of just being so hungry for travel. It was such a joy to see where you are and learn more about your work. And I'm just going to share quickly about Row 7 and about some programs that we have done over the past years, and just so glad to be here today. As Catherine mentioned, I'll just build a little bit more about what Row 7 is. Row 7 is an organic seed company built to reimagine food from seed to table, working in collaboration with chefs, breeders, with chefs, farmers, and plant breeders. Our mission is to introduce new plant varieties that bring unique culinary, nutritional, and ecological value to customers. Through our online marketplace, Row 7 sells seeds that are 100% organic and unpatented. And since its inception, Row 7 has collaborated with stakeholders across the food chain in order to make more delicious ingredients and the stories behind them more accessible to all. As Catherine said, Row 7 was founded by Chef Dan Barber of Blue Hill and Blue Hill at Stone Barns, and Michael Mazurek, who's a public plant breeder at Cornell University. And their relationship began in this sort of now fabled story moment over a decade ago when Michael came into Blue Hill for dinner, and he went back to the kitchen to say thank you to Dan. And he asked Dan, how are you? What can I do for you? And somebody next to Dan was peeling a butternut squash, and Dan sort of jokingly said, Michael, could you make this butternut more delicious? It's a really useful squash. It's big and it can feed folks. But it's a little watery and it sometimes just doesn't taste that good. And, would it be something that you could do? I dare you to make it more delicious. And Michael always said that was the first time that anyone had ever asked him to make something more delicious. Usually he was breeding for shelf life or uniformity, or when I first met him, he told me this story that still continues to blow my mind, which was that he was breeding something to be the size of a compartment in a lean cuisine tray. So he was sort of working backwards from industrial food, even though he's this brilliant plant breeder. So it was in that conversation that the work of Row 7 started, and that Michael and Dan and several plant breeders throughout the years began to collaborate with this chef and breeder relationship. And when that work was sort of evolving and the relationships were building, that group really decided that they wanted to break the work out of the four walls of fine dining restaurants and make these new varieties of vegetables more accessible to all eaters, all farmers, all chefs, anyone really in the food system, in the ecosystem of humanity. Because why not have more delicious and nutritious varieties of vegetables available for all? So that's why Row 7 was founded. And at the launch of the company, we decided to work with the chef community to sort of build some buzz around the varieties. So we reached out to over 60 chefs around the country and the world who are illustrated here and asked them. We identified these chefs by knowing they either had a farm of their own or worked really closely with farmers in their food shed. And we asked them, the chefs, to approach the farmers about growing Row 7 seeds for the chefs' restaurants, and then also to do trials of new seeds that we were considering putting in our variety that were in earlier stages with the breeder. This happened, and these conversations started to unfold. And as they did, we began to realize that people just really didn't get plant breeding. You can get seeds and you can get growing, but a lot of folks, when you say plant breeding, jump immediately to GMO or CRISPR or something like that, without realizing that plant breeding is something that's been happening in fields since the dawn of sort of domestic agriculture, human intervention in agriculture. And that plant breeding is just as simple as cross-pollinating two squashes with your hands and having a new variety of squash grow from that pollination. And what Michael does and the breeders that we work with, they do things in labs, and basically they just use technology to expedite those processes or make them happen faster, or they can gather a little bit more data. But the work that they're doing is something that could happen in nature. with human intervention easily as well. So we approached these chefs, and through building these relationships and connecting with their growers and kind of having a year of these conversations, we realized that we really just needed to dig deeper in the conversation and to have people tasting things and understanding what breeding was more. So we launched a pretty robust event series before the pandemic, engaging the chef, breeder, farmer, and eater. I'm going to share just two of the events. One is a field day that we had, and then a dinner series that we had. The field day still is one of my favorite things that we did. It was at a farm in upstate New York at Alewife Farm on a very hot September day, and we had about 60 chefs, 3 breeders, and just a whole day of activities and tastings and lectures, sort of culminating in a delicious meal, which I think we all know is the way to really hook anyone on anything you're trying to convert them to. So we had 3 breeders there. One was the tomato breeder who the tomato trials that he had shared the seeds with us for were being grown at Alewife. So it was just an incredible time. And, it was the beginning of September in New York, which is peak tomato season. It was just such a delicious and perfect moment to be trying these tomatoes. So we had all the tomatoes laid out, and we also had some information about the breeding process. And then we also, of course, had the breeder there who was such an incredible primary source to share about these processes. And we had people taste. I think as I was reflecting on these events and putting this conversation together, I think tasting things is just the biggest thing I can drive home about where we've seen success in our sort of desire around experiential education around our work, because that's just such a tangible, palpable experience folks can have. And then we wanted to build on this idea. We loved having the chefs there that day. It was such an intimate sort of chef and breeder moment. And we were hoping to also bring eaters and diners and those who are really going to help drive the market for new varieties of vegetables. And we therefore planned a dinner series, all the while hoping that, folks would have this, squash at a dinner or have a squash at a restaurant, and then soon be at their farmer's market asking for it, and soon be at their grocery store asking for it, which will then build, a larger market for our farmers who we work with to be able to grow more vegetables in organic systems, which will then infiltrate and support healthier soil health and all the things that are really our long-term goals of the work we're doing, which is to support that part of the food shed. So for the dinner series, we had, my goodness, it seems like such a luxury to do this now, given the past couple of years, but we had 5 dinners across the US, all together with 50 chefs, 1,000 eaters, and 15 breeders, all with the chefs working with the ingredients that the breeders were developing, creating just stunning and delicious dishes with them. And then peppered throughout the meals, we had sort of lectures and moments with the chefs and the seed breeders to really ground folks in the greater conversation of what they're eating. Also just wanted to touch briefly on our internal culinary trials, because we have a full-time chef on our team who's working really closely with our farm team. We have a trials farm in upstate New York where we are growing seeds that are being considered to be put into the catalog for row 7. And in addition to that, some breeders have just approached us to trial some seeds for them, even if we might not sell the seeds eventually, just to see what we think of them in the agronomic sense and also in the culinary sense. And again, just back to this idea of tasting, we, we'll try sometimes like 10 different types of potatoes and 10 different preparations to see how they do and compare them. And, it's always a tough day at work when I have to send a picture of this to my friends, to my text chains, telling them this is what I got to do at work today. But, the brilliant palates of the chefs always are influencing these further selections and further feedback that we are able to give to the breeders to go back a little bit to the drawing board and kind of tweak the blueprint or the recipe for the seed. And then eventually the seeds will reach their sort of perfect moment and will be released either in our catalog or other catalogs. An example of this is the high anthocyanin paste tomato trial that we did in the Pacific Northwest a few seasons ago. We partnered with 4 farms and about 10 chefs in the area. The farmers grew out the seeds that were an early version of this paste tomato bred by Jim Myers, who's there in the picture holding the tomato up. And they took really incredible data that we returned back to Jim And then we also had the chefs work with the tomatoes, process them, give us feedback. Could you make the skin a little thicker so it stores longer? Could you make it a little bit more acidic? And Jim took all of this information from both the farmer and the chef and then continued to tweak the tomato. And eventually it became the Midnight Roma tomato, which we've been lucky enough to release in our catalog. That is Row 7's work with several iteration or explanations, examples of our sort of experiential education part of our work and how we like to engage all of you, everyone in the food system, to be a greater part of the seed conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Always interesting to hear about your work and see the new varieties that have come out. Very exciting. Thank you so much. We have some time now, about 10 minutes or so, for some questions that we take from the audience. If you have one, please type it into the Q&A, and I'll kick it off with some that we received and have been receiving. This is maybe let's do a quick fire round answer for all of our panelists. One audience member wrote, agritourism, the end of traditional food or its rebirth? Kate, do you want to start?
I mean, I would definitely put it in the rebirth category. Agritourism is a name for something that's been happening forever. And the sort of return to that, I think, in the US and in parts of Europe and in Africa, I mean, all over the world really, is a way that demonstrates that people are more and more engaged in their food system, and the fact that folks who aren't working in the food world are looking to spend their time off, their vacation, their travel from one city to another when they're moving, that they're looking to be on a farm, I think really speaks to this increase of interest in participating in a food system, even when you're not actively a part of it in your day-to-day life, other than being an eater. So I hope it's a big rebirth, and that folks will be coming back to the farm more and more.
Nikki, would you agree?
Yes, I would. It's also an opportunity to provide young farmers with more resources for supplemental income, which is very important. So it's not just the one side of the tourist looking at the tourist, but we're also looking at the farmer and how the farmer benefits from this exchange in more ways than one.
And Joseph, what's your perspective? Is agritourism the end of tradition or rebirth?
The end of tradition.
Or traditional food?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Do you think that from your perspective, agritourism, people coming to the farm to eat, is beneficial to traditional foods, or negative to them?
Well, everything has two sides. I think it's depending on where you see it. And I really found out this because even and also here in this side, because I came with a lot of ideas with things that I saw that are actually good, and you come here, you try to implement it, and people find always, this is what I found really about what I think is very important in humanity, is that, I don't know, I'm a dreamer, and I believe in things, and sometimes it can be also a little bad, but I like to see the good things in everything, stay with them and try to implement it and see and work with people. And, like organically, I see the benefits of the agritourism here. Because can you imagine when the pandemic started, one of the first things that I said, having to close 2 restaurants, at one time at the hotel, I said to my people, hey, you know what? For me, everything you know, it's energy, it's good times as bad as these times are going. When this pass, it's gonna be great, you know. I know it's gonna be great. So let's start doing things that we can. So during the pandemic, we started learning how to grow better with more technical techniques from permaculture in our 2 restaurants. So, and developing our composting system with things that we have here that a lot of people didn't have. I didn't knew that you can use the seaweed, you know, into the composting and actually, you know, enhance the way. And people here didn't have all this information. They knew how to compost probably, I don't know, in your places in the US and other places, but not with the things that we have actually here. So we were actually working on those things. And now that when we reopened the restaurants, we found out that we have better restaurants, and naturally people started doing, we add to what we're doing tours of our garden, you know, naturally. People are so happy to do that, and then to see that food in their plate, that for me, it's positive, huge.
Thank you. I mean, and I hear that you are, during dinner, during the meal, you're educating people and they can go to the farms. And I'm curious, Nikki, what are some of the ways that you're educating people while they eat? So, you know, as someone who's been involved with farmed table dinners and meals, I often hear there's this balance of people just want to sit back and enjoy. They don't want a lot of education or to be educated when they go out to a meal. But we are all in the business of wanting to pass on the messages and the understanding of the food shed and the greater ecosystem that the ingredients are born out of. So how do you strike that balance?
Oh, we always talk about food when we eat. I have the food ID session, and all of the restaurants we dine at, or tavernas, or even cafes, are all farm to table. So everybody we work with grows their own food, produces their own olive oil. So the stories continue throughout dinner. It's an educational experience while they're eating. So I guess it's different from maybe an American going to Blue Hill or something like that, but our students come specifically to learn about food. So we give them every bit of information we can while they're here for 10 days.
Thank you. I heard a couple of you mention the economic impact, the additional revenue source for farmers. We had a couple of questions around both how to ensure that higher prices of farm to table products positively make positive economic impacts in low income rural communities. And I'm curious if anyone would like to comment on the economic impact of culinary innovation and farm dinners, farm to table products. No takers. I have other questions.
No, I can speak to, I mean, I can't speak to it because I don't have an answer yet, but it's definitely something that we are talking about and processing around all the time within our work. I think in terms of our events, we saw them, and this is a very different perspective than a farmer throwing an event, which will, you know, the investment for us, we're a company or for-profit company that's funded, versus a farmer investing in something that's very different. So I don't want to just assume that it's totally feasible for everyone to invite guests for free to their events, right? It's definitely not. That's not a sustainable model, but for a lot of folks. But for us, we at our dinners usually had a certain number of seats set aside for community members who we wanted to invite. And those were folks who we identified who we wanted to invite. And then also we had always an essay contest for folks who wanted to attend. And that was so fun because we got to see such passionate folks who were just thrilled to be at the table and in conversation. And then in addition to that, in terms of Row 7's work, so much of what we do is driven by this accessibility point. And this is, I can't emphasize enough how much breeding can really influence food security in a positive manner because of things like storage. So the honey nut, for example, which is that first squash that I spoke about, Michael creating the shrunken butternut. The first kind of feedback around the honey nut, other than how delicious it was, because it was so good, was that it didn't store well. And when you are trying to feed folks in rural areas where there's not deliveries every day, or also in cities as well, where there might not be deliveries of fresh food every day, having something that it's long storing is so important. So he went back to the drawing board and created what is now called the 898 squash, which is a honey nut with a thicker skin. And therefore it's able to be in a store longer and can be in stores where they don't have deliveries all the time. And, you know, that's, I think, speaks to being able to solve that problem and be able to have fresh food accessible for more folks.
Thank you. And we have time for one last question. What is the role of, how can writers or tourism agencies get out the message about agritourism? We have lots of tourism professionals in the audience today. So if I'm a freelance travel writer, or I work for Extension or another private tourist agency, what's the best way that this communication, how can we move past misconceptions and communicate effectively about agritourism?
I can answer that. I've hosted, I don't know, dozens of journalists, National Geographic, New York Times, et cetera, et cetera. I think one of the problems that small scale companies like ours face in these instances is that these journalists want us to pay for their trip. That's for American Express. Those are fam trips. We don't do fam trips. So this is a very difficult situation. It's difficult for small scale producers like us, or maybe Joseph, to host a journalist at our expense. That's a marketing budget we just don't have. So it's a kind of a sense of entitlement that we also have to convey to journalists that, find a budget. Even with TV crews, they expect us to host them, and octopus spear fishing and all this other crazy stuff. It would cost us thousands of euros. And, I'm talking big people that you've seen on TV. And I just say, wait until you get a budget and you're welcome. We're not going to charge you a mint, but we have to pay for your trip, and we have to pay all the people that we work with. So that's a slippery slope there you're talking about, Catherine. But many journalists have come to us, and, they had a budget and they managed to, cover their costs.
Thank you for that important reminder and perspective. That's great. I'm afraid we're out of time, which always happens. I have this long list of questions that we don't get to. And thank you all for sending them in. I always have this phrase in my mind throughout years of work. I've held it, that every tradition was once an innovation. And that really was demonstrated by all of your stories today. Thank you for taking the risk of being the innovators and moving us into the creative possibilities that are awaiting to emerge when the like-minded and like-hearted individuals come together to imagine what could be and to implement radical beginnings. So thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you to all of our audience for being here, and we wish you well in continuing your good work. Lisa, I'll turn it to you.
Thank you so much, Catherine, and to our panelists and to the attendees and all the amazing questions that came in through chat and through Q&A. As Catherine mentioned, we did not get to all of the questions, but we are going to send out an email afterwards. You'll get that from Christy Sherlock. and it will have resources and contact info as well as a link to the recording. We definitely want to keep this conversation going on this topic and also on other aspects related to agritourism. On April 6th, we'll be talking about agritourism and wellness. And on May 10th, we will have a networking session, which will be a little different. It'll be on Zoom meeting with breakout groups. Registration is open for both of those webinars, and the link is posted on the website, agritourismworkshop.com. At the same website, you'll also find registration, which is now open for the Vermont Conference in August, as well as a link to a scholarship application. So if some of you are thinking of or are interested in traveling to Vermont and you're not sure if you have the resources, don't hesitate to apply for a scholarship. I'll close now by thanking all of you so much for joining us and hope to see you again next month. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. See you later.